Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today we're going to talk about my March TBR. In 2018, I am trying to be intentional with actually making lists every month of books that I want to read. That way, as I finish a book, I only have a couple to choose from rather than facing my entire library, which can be really intimidating. And so far it's worked out really nicely. In January and February, I've been able to finish one book and pick another one right up and keep up my momentum for reading. I've already read 11 books this year, which I'm feeling amazing about, so I don't want to give all the credit to these TBR lists, but I think it's a huge reason I'm able to stay consistent and read every day and stay up with my goals. January and February just had kind of random TBR lists. There was no real focus to them, but March is International Women's Month. That's why I'm wearing this t-shirt for this video. And I want to make an effort to celebrate women in my reading. So both female authors, but also books that feature strong female characters or have just great female representation that I'm excited about. Without too much rambling to get us started, let's go ahead and just jump into the list. First up is A God in Ruins by Kate Atkinson. I read Kate Atkinson's Life After Life in 2017 and absolutely loved it. I don't think it made it onto my top 10 list, but if not, it was like 11 or 12 on there because it was so good. It's a time-bending novel, so we follow our main character Ursula as she makes several different choices throughout her life, and occasionally we'll sort of rewind and go back to see what would have happened if she had made the other choice, taken, the other road or whatever. And it was really fascinating. It was really depressing because Ursula was essentially dying over and over and over again. Not a spoiler, it's literally just how the book works. It was way different than any book that I have ever read, and I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think A God in Ruins is approached in that same way. This book follows Teddy, Ursula's brother, as he is making his way throughout his life. So he's a pilot in World War II, he becomes a father, a grandfather, and he ends up in a life that he just totally did not envision for himself. So this is examining how he ended up there. I don't want to spoil anything for Life After Life, but he has a lot of traumatic events that he faces as a young kid. I think that sort of affects how he ends up where he ends up, and this book examines that. Also, this cover is gorgeous. I'm jazzed to read this, and I don't know if you would necessarily need to read Life After Life in order to understand A God in Ruins, but I'll keep you updated and we'll eventually post a review on my blog. So book number 2 is The Dark Lake by Sarah Bailey. And this is Sarah Bailey's first novel, so I'm excited to read a debut, and it's also a murder mystery detective book, which I've realized over the last few months is a genre that I love. I love a good plot twist, love trying to figure out the mystery and put all the clues together before the author reveals it to us. Okay, getting back to the task at hand. The Dark Lake follows our main character Gemma, who is a detective in her small town in Australia. I also put this on my TBR because I feel like a lot of detective novels follow men who are detectives rather than women. So I was jazzed when I realized that this one was different and that the detective is a woman. And this follows the story after Gemma is assigned the case of this woman who has been found strangled and murdered floating in a lake. Rose, this woman, was a classmate of Gemma's in high school, and she was sort of the it girl, queen bee, everyone loved her, beautiful, and she recently moved back to their small town from Sydney to become a theater teacher at their high school. And as Gemma works through this case, she's just coming up with all of these questions that don't totally make sense to her based on the Rose that she knew, like why she lives in this gross, decrepit apartment when her dad is super wealthy, why she moved out of Sydney to come back to their small hometown. All these questions just start to come up, and Gemma is kind of baffled by them. So I'm excited to add a mystery book to my list and hoping that the plot twist takes me by surprise. Next up is The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chima. If you know me, you know I love a good YA fantasy, so I couldn't make a TBR list without throwing at least one on there. And this one follows two main characters. So we first have Han, who is a former thief who grows up pretty poor with his mom and his sister. One day he steals an amulet from the son of the High Wizard. So it turns out the amulet is an ancient relic from the Demon King, who almost destroyed the world 1,000 years ago. And this family that he stole it from will do anything to try to get it back from him. And then the other character is Princess Raisa, who is approaching her 16th name day, which means she will soon be eligible for marriage. However, she's like totally not into that idea, and I just have to read this line from the back of the book. She isn't looking forward to trading in her common sense for a prince with a big castle and a tiny brain. I mean, she's like the exact character that I want to read. Rather than aspiring to be a wife and a queen, etc., she wants to be a warrior like Hanalea, the woman who defeated the Demon King and saved the world from his wrath and destruction. Raisa seems awesome. Also love that this king was defeated by a badass lady warrior, and that's Raisa's hero. But anyway, Raisa's mother is getting ready to send her off to a suitor who Raisa like totally does not see eye to eye with. And somehow Han and Raisa's stories coincide, and the 7 realms will never be the same. I have only heard great things about both this author and this series, so excited to finally dive into it. So next up we have Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So this is a book that I have been wanting to read for a long time. I bought it last year before the Women's March in Washington, D.C., read a couple of the essays, but just didn't make my way through it, and so I would really, really like to actually start and finish it this month. So these are a collection of essays where Roxane Gay sort of explores herself, moments where she has been both a good feminist and a bad feminist, how she comes to terms with her, femininity and her identity as a woman and that sort of thing, and just a lot of social critique on the norms and demands of women in our society. And I've heard it's really funny. From what I remember of the first 2 essays, I really loved them, and Roxane Gay is just so real. She's written several other books that I'm really intrigued by. One is a collection of fictional short stories about difficult women, and that is really intriguing to me, but I'd kind of like to read more about her and her nonfiction first, just to kind of get in that mindset and then read some of her fiction. But this is one that I just need to check off my list this month. Might have to be the first one that I read, just so I can make sure I get it. So I recently signed up for this website called BookBub that sends you a daily email with cheap ebooks that are on Amazon and such, which has been great and also awful, but I found a really exciting one the other day. So Dear Martin by Nick Stone is what a lot of people are calling a companion or a complement to The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas that was released last year. This follows our main character Justice, a young black man in high school who is top of his class, destined for an Ivy League education, just faces a lot of criticism and hate from those around him. He tries to make sense of this world by reading more and learning more about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and in an effort to explore these thoughts and feelings he's having, starts a journal where he writes letters to Martin Luther King. Dear Martin. I've heard it's a really quick read and really powerful. One day Justice is riding in the car with his friend Manny, and they have the music turned way up, and an off-duty white cop is angered, and there's hateful words thrown around, shots fired, and like The Hate You Give, this has a lot to do with the horrible problem facing society today between black men and white cops. So I'm really excited to read another book like this. As a white woman, I will never understand fully these experiences, but as someone who loves to read, this is a way that I can try to get closer to understanding, and I'm so grateful that there are more books being published so that, young black men and women can see themselves in literature, and so we as white people can just be better. Alright, the next is a reread for me, and it's The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. Okay, quick disclaimer. I know that this is really blurry, and I'm so sorry, but just bear with me. We're almost done. I read it back in high school, and I really enjoyed it. I remember it being my favorite book that I read in my AP Lit class, but I probably didn't fully appreciate it at age 17. It's about 4 women who are recent Chinese immigrants to San Francisco who all meet to enjoy dim sum and play mahjong and just sort of share their own experiences and have people who understand them. It follows their story as well as the stories and relationships with each of their daughters, who are all Chinese American. So while their parents immigrated from China, they were all born in San Francisco. And I remember it just being the most beautiful depiction of mother-daughter. I'm just so excited to reread this book because I have only fond memories of reading it, and I just remember absolutely loving it. And I hope with rereading it now that I'm a little bit older that this is that much more poignant. And yeah, I'm just really excited to bring up an old favorite again. I genuinely don't think I appreciated this enough in high school, even though I loved it so much. So I'm excited to reread this and see how my thoughts change and if I remember it correctly. All right, and the last book that I have is Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. This was the National Book Award winner this year, and it sounds really intriguing. So our main character in this book is Jojo, a 13-year-old boy who lives in Mississippi, who has a really complicated relationship with himself and his family and his own identity. So he is biracial. His mother is black, his father is white. He's had a really tumultuous childhood. His dad is in prison. His mother abuses drugs. When his father is released from prison, his mom packs up himself and his sister and a friend to go and meet his father when he's released. There he meets the ghost of another 13-year-old boy, and from there I think it sort of becomes like a ghost story, or at least that's one element of it. This book sounds super intriguing. There are so many different elements to it, and I don't know what to totally make of it. One of my friends recommended this to me super highly. She said just one of the most beautiful books that she's read recently, and I'm pretty sure it's also on Obama's list of favorite books for 2017, so what more endorsement do you need? I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I really enjoyed making it. Subscribe to my channel. Be sure to keep updated on my blog, emlikesbooks.com, so that you can see how I feel about all of the books that I end up reading. And then I will see you in my next video. Bye!